to another episode of Inspirational Journeys of the Best Minds, brought to you by IMERGEY. Today, we have the privilege of featuring Siew Ting Foo, a visionary leader redefining marketing through her focus on human-centric growth. As a former global chief brand and insights officer at HP, Siew Ting brings a wealth of expertise from her impactful roles at industry titans such as HP, Diageo, Mars, and Unilever. Not only is Siew Ting a marketing powerhouse, but she is also a passionate mentor who champions women's empowerment and inclusive leadership. Her mastery in crafting authentic brand strategies that engage diverse audiences is unparalleled, and her recently published book, Building Brands with Soul, offers both guidance and inspiration. Through it, she shares principles and case studies on creating brands that genuinely resonate with consumers. Siew Ting's storytelling is infused with insights from her experiences across Singapore, China, and various multinational roles. We are thrilled to welcome her to the podcast to share her journey and wisdom. Please join me in welcoming the exceptional Siew Ting Foo. Firstly, congratulations on your new book, Siew Ting. I'd love to hear more about your writing journey, what inspired you to write this book, and what readers can expect to gain from it.
Hi, Jackie. Hi, everyone. Hi, readers. Nice to meet all of you. So what inspired me to write this book? I think it's triggered off by three things. It all happens that for the past 2 years, I actually write a Friday email to my team without fail. And the emails really talks about my views about things around the world, about marketing, about the building brands, but also really very much about leadership. And I wanted to, really, take this opportunity, having had 25 years of my career and having worked with fantastic mentors, to be able to, inspire the next generation of marketing leaders. Because I thought that, when I was aspiring marketing leader, I wish someone could have actually given me a playbook that teaches me, how do I get to become a CMO? So it was triggered by these three reasons, and then having the courage and determination to start writing a book.
I'm sure many CMOs would appreciate the practical guidance your book offers. So I'm curious about how you define the title, which is Building with Soul. What does that mean to you? And if you have any examples to provide?
Yeah, I think building brands with soul, it's something that it's not really very much describable. But I guess great brands that are really about building brands with soul, many of them I've actually worked with, from the Johnny Walker, to the Mars brand. And also, a brand that I also truly, actually admire, which is really Starbucks. And building brands with soul really comes, I would say, from my perspective, the inside out, in the perspective that it starts with, the company purpose, the mission. And that purpose and mission, it's so compelling that it starts with internal belief. So it starts with employees not only just within the marketing function, but all functions itself, and really driven from that brand love, to really drive an impact and create an impact into the entire society. It's not something that you could really, pin it out, but if a brand that is really with soul, you can actually feel it, smell it, taste it, and the entire experience of the intangibles is actually very, very consistent. So for me, that is a great brand, that with soul. And I think a great brand that actually is, for me, that is a fantastic brand that I truly admire, that had soul, but then in the process they might lost their mojo a little bit, would be a great example of Nike, which we will have read a lot of articles on how it lost its journey a little bit. But great brands like Nike can really come back again. So that's my definition of brands with soul.
Right, that really illustrates the commitment of leaders and employees being able to create a lasting impact. So, what does leadership with soul mean to you, and why is it particularly significant in today's landscape?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And to me, I defined it, literally on my book cover. And I actually summarize it with a visual of a ripple. Imagine a water ripple. And what does the ripple really stand for? It really starts with first, I think, self. So self mastery, down to, if you're able to master yourself as a great leader, then you can build great teams, then you can actually build great business and great brands. So it's almost like a ripple effect. And if you are a leader with soul, your ripple effect will actually transcend even if you're not there. So that is, what I meant by leadership with soul. And it all starts with yourself in terms of, your self mastery, and your own knowing yourself, knowing your purpose, and also keep reinventing and what your true values are really all about. In the book, obviously, it's I'm not perfect. I'm still learning, but I share a couple of tips, and I summarize them in 10 leadership tips of what I meant by leading with soul.
Right. It's so inspiring to hear this prioritization of leaders looking at themselves first, because self awareness is so important and can positively influence your teams. Could you share your playbook for leading with soul, especially in your role as a marketing leader?
Yes, I think those 3 4 points that I mentioned on the ripple effect is really critical. But if you bring that home as a marketing leader, and I broke down in my book in what I called the session, which is on the Friday emails session. It actually encompasses 3 things. I think one is what kind of business skills is essential in current era. The second piece is what kind of team leadership skills that you need to have. And then the last but not least is what some of the own self mastery traits that you need to have. I think in the business skill front, I actually categorize a couple of things. For example, it's all about starting with the business problem and the business impact that you really want to create, and it always come back to, hey, what the customer voice is, how do you use customer voice to really drive the entire business strategy and the marketing strategy. And the third piece is also around what meant by, hey, how do you drive and lead from a servant leader perspective. And last but not least, given the fact that, hey, AI is being rampant now, in my book, I also talk a little bit about my perspective of how do you combine AI with human ingenuity to really form a view, being a great marketing leader. I mean, in terms of team leadership, I have a couple of stuff that I felt is really important in terms of team leadership, from creativity, from fostering alignment, and given the fact that I've been in global roles and local roles, so I talk a fair bit about, hey, what does great global role leadership looks like, and how does local teams need to really operate within the global scale, so that a great community is really coming together. Yeah.
Yeah, that's fascinating that you incorporated AI into the playbook as well. It sounds like it's a very well rounded plan. So, in your opinion, what traits are essential for effective leadership in the marketing industry today?
Yeah, I was very fortunate in 2021 to be one of the top 100 global CMOs to actually go through a pretty well established and well known institute called Institute of Real Growth. And during the pandemic time, we went through courses to get ourselves to be really great CMOs. And in that course, there was actually a leadership framework which was conducted by Institute of for Real Growth together with Spencer Stewart, the headhunting firms, on looking at what are the great 10 skills and 5 traits that the future CMO needs to have. And with that, actually, I've been applying that, over the past few years, being in global marketing leadership standpoint. And it's a little bit of trial and error, but I would say that there are 5 traits that are pretty important in terms of how CMOs and great marketing leaders should operate in actually the current world that we live in. One is, given the state of where we are, speed and impact, obsess becomes very important. How do you balance the long and short? How do you make sure that you make decisions that are right with the right data, but done it in a way that is speedy enough and impact. The second thing is, if you are a marketer, you have to be a fantastic storyteller, but you have to do it in a way that is, inspiring, but yet courageous. Um, I mean, the marketing role, unlike other C-suite role, is about being the orchestrator, integrator of the C-suite. So how do you create a compelling narrative that will bring everybody along towards the same North Star becomes really important. And then last two piece really is around, hey, being a great servant leader that I speak quite a lot about, especially in terms of my language as leading with soul. And last but not least, given where we're going, and the whole technology is really transforming the world of where we live. So being very curious and being very agile and constantly demonstrating that you're learning becomes important, because what you know yesterday might totally be disrupted within the 6 months. And I myself have seen through, multiple technology disruption that you have to constantly hone your marketing craft.
Right, right, right. So, how would you measure the success of your leadership?
Yes, it's not in any way that is data centric in that perspective,
Mhm.
but I think I have a three rules of thumb. I would call them my perspective success of a leadership or my own leadership style. One, I always make sure that I go into an assignment and I leave the place better than it was before when I first start. Whether the team is better, whether the outcomes driven by the team is much better. The second piece is, you know um, you really have to make sure that people's potential are really unleashed. And that goes back to making the place better, not only making the place better, but making the people become better. That their key strengths are being leveraged and their potential becomes better. And last but not least is really the art of leadership. I think the best measurement of success for me is, if you're not in the role, is the team able to function in a harmonious and actually high performing way, or in a state of crisis? Let's say if there's crisis that it face, that you are not there but the team can actually operate its own, will be a great litmus test of great leadership.
Right. Building a self sufficient team to handle crisis when you're not there shows your trust in them as well. And it's super
Yes.
empowering. This approach is super empowering. It gives your team a sense of ownership and
Yeah.
confidence as well.
Yeah.
What are some of the biggest challenges you've faced so far as a leader, and how would you say you've overcome them?
I think I won't be surprised if that is what a lot of CMO faces, or some great leaders face, especially in this era that we stay in. It's really about being able to balance the short and long term business impact and outcome, but done in a way that you are still being very authentic and and true to yourself, your own
Mhm.
values, your own leadership style. So having that fine balance that you're actually representing the company, but yet not losing your own purpose and own identity is actually a critical balancing act.
Yeah, maintaining balance is definitely a significant challenge for all leaders, I'm sure. Do you have a mentor or CEO who exemplifies leadership with soul? And how has their influence maybe shaped your approach?
Yeah, I think I've been just one of those few that has been very, very fortunate. I would say my first 20 years of my career, I have many great mentors. And they come from different walks. So I was mentored by an entrepreneur in Mars. I was mentored by, fantastic, talented regional and global CMOs in Diageo, but also, great CEOs that teach me commercial skills. And also I had a fantastic opportunity even working with, a fantastic chief creative, officer who taught me everything about, creativity. And because of them, I managed to kind of learn and pick up great traits of them from them, and actually form my own leadership
Mm.
brand. So this book actually talks about, a couple of them appeared in the book. And also they appeared in my acknowledgement, because they have actually sponsored me and mentored me in the right way. But my leadership brand is really about leading with soul, and a couple of them actually help me form this view on what great leadership is all about. Yeah,
That's amazing that they've made such an impact on your
yeah.
leadership style. What is something that's surprising that you learned about yourself during while you were writing this book during your author's journey?
I think two things which was totally unexpected. um
Mm-hmm.
I learned the importance of patience. And I felt that you're almost like a craftsman. Your craftsman is the sense that sometimes you take two steps forward, but you take two steps back. And being a CMO, being very commercially driven, sometimes when you set your goal, you have to go towards that, and you actually have a time, and you want to do it really well. But I think the journey of writing the book is not that way. It's not that linear. It sometimes turn a little bit here and there. And then the second thing that I really surprised about myself is that because it's a journeying process, so there's a lot of personal reflection.
Mm-hmm.
And at the end of the book, in fact, it's like I've done my own personal reflection of.
Right.
It sounds pedantic, but it's almost like, hey, I have done 25 years of personal reflection, and now I'm ready to look at, hey, what should my next 25 years look like, right? But it's a fantastic journey of personal reflection, personal learning. And because when you write it down, you're actually committing also to the world that this is something that you will do, or you want to inspire more people to do. So I think those two things were something that really surprised me. I never learned that in my 25 years of career in the CMO, but it has been very, very rewarding.
I mean, oftentimes the beauty is in the journey itself, not always the
Yes.
end goal.
Yes.
So, what are some of the most important leadership lessons you've learned throughout your career, you'd say?
I think two, I would say three. One, it is really the importance of keep reinventing. Um, you know, and be intentional about it. So, you go into a role, you be really, really clear why you are going to the role, what are you uncomfortable about, and what you want to keep reinventing. And I think that has served me really well. And then the second piece is the importance of, what I meant by curiosity and growth mindset. And sometimes you have to unlearn to learn new skills, especially with what we're facing now in terms of AI. There's some things that are not the usual way and not so linear. I sum up my own important leadership learning lessons into 5 C's. So not your not your Singaporean 5 C's, nor your 5 carats of a diamond, but my own version of 5 C's, which is the first C being curiosity that I met talk about. The second C being conviction, having conviction to stick to your guns and keep selling it. And the third thing, which is really around courage to take risks and being bold. And then the fourth, which is very, very has served me really well in my career, is creativity. Creativity not only just in terms of advertising, but creativity in terms of business model, ideas, narrative, in that sense. And then last but not least is commitment.
Mm-hmm.
Once you set yourself on a goal, just making sure that you actually follow through. So those 5 C's serve me quite well,
Right.
whether I'm an individual contributor or recently leading big teams. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What advice would you give to any aspiring professionals who are maybe just starting out in their corporate careers, whether it's in marketing or just in general?
It's three things. Stay hungry,
Mm-hmm.
stay humble, and then be very, very curious to learn, and don't be afraid to keep trying new things. I think the best learning experience I've ever had is not through causes. I think causes helps you in itself, but it's really learning on the job. And the best learnings that I've got is when the job is making me so uncomfortable,
Mhm.
And actually, that's where the biggest learning I've ever had. And actually, I grew the most. I mean, obviously, in the journey, there's a lot of pain, there's a lot of frustration and stuff like that. But when you look back, the roles that I had or where I'm most uncomfortable, and they can be tree change. So, for example, one of the role that I had was when I moved from, consumer goods to tech with
Mhm.
HP. I had three big change. I had a company change. I have a industry change, which is second change, and then I had the role change, which is bigger in remit. And actually, those three things were very, very uncomfortable. I had to learn the new industry, I had to learn a new culture, a new company, and new relationships, and new stakeholders, and then I had to learn a bigger scope on But that experience really set me up in a really big way, and I learned the most, and I grew the most. Yeah.
Right. Those moments are the moments that really do push you and let you know that you can do it. And it's a very
Yes.
powerful combination.
Yes.
And where can our listeners find your book?
Yeah, the book can be pre-ordered now in two ways. So for people staying in Singapore, it can be pre-ordered on my website, which is www.soulforprofit.org. So SOUL for FOR profit PROFIT.org. For those that staying out of Singapore, it can be made available. I mean, it's actually ready to be made pre-ordered for actual fulfillment from 22nd of November onwards from Amazon.
Amazing. So looking forward to reading this book too.
Thank you. I enjoyed this conversation a lot.